A Craftsman socket wrench from 1962. A Stanley hand plane, its iron sole worn smooth from 1,000 passes across pine and oak. A Diston crosscut saw hanging on a nail, teeth still sharp, because your grandfather sharpened them himself every single spring. If you know all three of those, stay with me. Because by the time we reach the back wall of this garage, we are going to find something most people have completely forgotten. There was a time when a man's garage told you everything about who he was. You walked in, and you could read his whole life. The tools hanging on pegboard, each one in its own painted outline. The workbench worn down to bare wood in the spots he used most. The smell, motor oil, sawdust, and something metallic that never quite left. These weren't just tools. They were a man's second language. The way he reached for a particular handle without looking. The way he knew just by the sound of a saw pulling through wood whether the blade needed setting. That knowledge didn't come from a manual. It came from years, from watching his own father, from doing it wrong and then doing it right. Let's start at the door. Right inside, on the pegboard closest to the light switch, the Craftsman socket set. Made in the United States, sold at Sears, backed by a guarantee that sounded almost too good to be true. If it breaks, we'll replace it. No receipt? No questions. Men trusted that guarantee the way they trusted a handshake. There are Craftsman ratchets from the 1950s still working in garages right now, clicking through their paces like they just came off the line. Sears sold the brand in 2017. The lifetime guarantee disappeared quietly, not long after. Something left with it. Something harder to name than a warranty. Move along the pegboard and you will find the hand plane. Heavy, solid. A Stanley No. 4 smoothing plane, made in New Britain, Connecticut, from a design that had not changed much since the 1870s. It was how you got a door to fit after the house settled, how you trued up a tabletop, fit a drawer so it slid like glass. Power sanders can remove wood. A good hand plane could sculpt it. Stanley made planes in America for over a century before production moved overseas. The old ones work better than what replaced them. That is not nostalgia. That is just the truth. On the wall to the left, the Diston D8 handsaw. Henry Diston started making saws in Philadelphia in 1840. A 26-inch crosscut with a taper ground blade and a handle shaped to fit a human hand, as if it was born there. The expectation was that the man buying it would learn to sharpen it himself. A dull saw doesn't just slow you down, it wanders. The Philadelphia factory employed thousands of men for over a century before it went silent in the 1950s. You can still find those old saws, and when you do, they will cut cleaner than most of what is on the shelf today. Hung on its own dedicated hook, the Estwing framing hammer. Ernest Estwing started in Rockford, Illinois in 1923 with one idea. One single piece of steel, head to handle, no failure points. Just American steel balanced to drive a 16-penny nail in 3 strikes. Men who used Estwing hammers for 30 years could pick one up blindfolded and know it instantly. That weight, that balance. Estwing is still in Rockford, still making hammers the same way. Never moved, never sold out. You can still buy one today, made in the same town, in a factory that has been there for over 100 years. Here's a tool that younger people have never seen. You push down on the handle and the bit spins. You let up and it ratchets back. The Yankee Spiral Ratchet Screwdriver. Before cordless drills, this was speed. You could drive a screw, smooth and fast, with one hand, without stopping to adjust your grip. Push, release, push, release. It had a rhythm to it, almost like breathing. Old carpenters kept theirs long after the cordless revolution came, because for close quarters, delicate work, nothing else did it as well. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. At least one of these tools just brought someone to mind, a specific person. Your father, your grandfather, maybe an uncle, who let you hang around his garage on Saturday mornings. Tell me in the comments, what tool from that garage do you still have today? Rusty, cracked handle, unused for 20 years. It doesn't matter. What did you keep? I read every single comment. Now the back wall. Right in the middle, Channellock pliers. The Champion De-armament Tool Company in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Invented tongue and groove pliers in 1933. Somewhere along the way, people stopped using the brand name and just called them Channellocks. That is how dominant they were. These were the pliers that fixed the leak under the sink and turned the fitting that would not budge. They felt indestructible because they almost were. Channellock is still in Meadville, still family-owned, still making the same pliers in the same town. If your grandfather's pair finally gave up, the real thing is still available, made by American hands. And here we are. The back corner, the last hook on the last wall. The Lufkin Folding Rule. Wooden folding rules from the Lufkin Rule Company in Saginaw, Michigan, were in the pockets of American carpenters and tradesmen for a century. 8 sections of boxwood or maple, brass fittings, red painted numbers on a white ground. Tape measures existed, but the folding rule held still. You could set it in a groove, and it stayed where you put it while you marked your line. There is something about unfolding it, section by section, that slows you down just enough. Measure twice, cut once, wasn't just advice about lumber. It was a whole philosophy about how to do things right. We've walked the whole garage. 6 tools. 6 companies with histories stretching back 100 years or more. Made by American workers who understood that what they were making would outlast them. That was the standard. Not should we build it to last, but of course we build it to last. What other way is there? Something changed. We can feel the difference in our hands when we pick up what replaced these things. Lighter, looser, less certain. But the old tools are still out there. in estate sales and flea markets, and the back of your uncle's barn, waiting for someone to clean them up and put them back to work. They were built to last, and they did. Which tool from your father's or grandfather's garage do you still have? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear every single one of those stories. If this brought back something real, share it with someone who was there. And subscribe, because we have a lot more of this country left to remember.